Alright, so in this video we're checking out the DJI OSMO Nano. I know there's a ton of videos on this camera already, and I had a hard time getting this. If you're in the US, it is somewhat difficult to acquire this camera. Now, DJI did not send me this camera. This is not a sponsored review. Unlike the reviews that came out on the release date, all those were sponsored videos by those creators. I'm sure they're getting paid tons of money to say whatever DJI wants to tell them to say. I don't need to follow any rules. I can say whatever the hell I want, and so you're going to get my perspective on this camera. Now, a lot of stuff has already been covered on this camera, so I'm not going to rehash all that and make it a 2-hour video. I'm sure you're probably already seen a lot of content on this camera already. I'm going to cover some of the stuff that's important to me, and maybe some things that I think might be important to the particular users of this camera, and also tell you who I think this is going to be for and who it's definitely not for. Now, what's interesting about all the reviews that came out on this camera's been out for a couple of weeks now, and the firmware has been updated like 4 times. So there was like 8.40, 8.50, and then the one I'm using is 8.60. That's the most recent firmware release at the time of recording this video. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more, and when new firmware comes out, I'll make update videos in the future on that. But because there's so many different reviews on different firmware, you get a lot of different results. And I think the number one issue on this camera that a lot of people that have been complaining about this camera is the overheating. And you can get a wide variety of results on the overheating, from it overheating within, say, 4 or 5 minutes to people able to go 25 to 30 minutes before it overheats. Now, also, to complicate matters further, if they don't tell you what sort of settings that they're using when they're doing the test, and most of the time they take the camera, they put it on a table, they press record, and they walk away. That's not, in my opinion, a very real world type of test. I don't know if you use your camera that way, but I don't. I actually use it in the outside world in different scenarios. I don't typically stick it on a table and press record and then wait for it to overheat, because most cameras will do that in that scenario depending on the ambient temperature. But the settings you use will determine highly whether or not that camera will overheat. So if you're using the highest settings, D-Log-M 10-bit, 4K 60, 4:3 mode, all this, all the highest settings, then it's going to overheat a lot faster. And if you use the lowest settings, 1080p, 30 frames per second, 8-bit video, very minimal in terms of like how it's going to tax the processor, and of course it's going to generate less heat, and it will not overheat as quickly. Now, the results you're going to get will also depend on the camera, the actual physical camera you get. I've been seeing this in kind of different results. Some people getting worse results, some people getting better results. For example, some people were able to record at 4K 25 FPS and doesn't overheat. And then other people will do that same test and it overheats for them. So you're going to get a lot of sort of mixed results on whether or not it'll overheat for you. Now, it's interesting is that this whole drama with the overheating on this camera, which is their modular camera, is a replacement for the Action 2, which I have here, is that it's all repeating all over again. So when this camera came out, it had overheating problems, and all the videos came out blasting it for overheating. And I think you have to understand that this camera is not going to be for most people. So if you're a typical action camera user, I would not recommend that you get this camera. Now, of course, most of the release date videos that came out, from the sponsored videos, they're never going to tell you that. But as a action camera user myself, this camera is a very niche product. It's for a very specific type of user that wants basically use it as a point of view camera, use it in a very discreet way. Their size and weight is the top priority. If your top priority is press the button and record for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 hours at a time at the highest settings, then this camera is not going to be for you. And you're going to probably want to go with something more traditional, like this Action 3 or the Action 4, the Action 5. You're going to get a screen on the front, screen in the back. It's going to be waterproof all around. You can swap out the battery and swap out the SD card. So it's more this is the more traditional action camera experience that we're all familiar with. And for the wide variety of you guys out there that are looking for an action camera that want something sort of similar, I would say either get the Action 4 or the Action 5. That's probably the best ones in this category. This is general purpose use of an action camera. The Nano is going to be more for those of you that just want to use the camera module and in very specific scenarios, mostly for point of view shots, POV shots. Now, for those of you that are looking at this as an FPV camera, for those of you that fly drones, I will have a completely separate video covering all the FPV aspects specifically in a separate video over on my FPV channel. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, that'll be posted over there at some point in the near future. Not exactly sure when, but if you're subscribed and turn your notifications on, you will get notified when I pop that video over there. I'm just going to cover this as a point of view camera for those specific users that are going to use it as such. Now, I have bought many of these Action 2s. This is actually one of my most favorite cameras of all time, despite the limitations of it overheating, the fact that it doesn't have much storage. There's definitely a lot of limitations with this modular type of design that, for me, I'm able to work around. I don't put the camera down on a table and press record, and I don't need it to record for 20 or 30 minutes. I use this mainly for drone video and also for point of view video, and typically 10 to 15 minutes at the most, and this is totally fine. I don't even use the protective case that helps sort of mitigate the overheating issues with this camera, even though I have that. I don't even need it because I don't record for that long, and all the video in this that I've gotten, I've been very happy with, and I actually use it in a lot of my e-bike and e-scooter reviews. I use this a ton, and this is actually my fourth Action 2. I've destroyed 3 previous ones over the last 4 years in drone crashes, and this is the downside. The big downside to the Action 2 is the front glass will break. That's not replaceable, and then the lens will be unusable, and this back screen will also break. So I've broken both of those on 3 previous crashes. This is my 4th one, and considering actually getting another one, even though I have this, because this is still one of my all-time favorite cameras. Yes, we'll get to the image quality comparisons later in the video. You'll be able to judge for yourself what you think is better. I'll sort of give you my opinion on the differences towards the end here, but I just want to cover this mainly because most people come to a video and they're like, have a lot of expectations for this type of a camera, and most of those expectations are going to be met with something more traditional like this. You got a battery you can replace, and an SD card that you can replace. These have internal batteries. You can't swap them out. You're limited by power time, and when the battery dies, you have to charge it up. You have to sit there and wait. The other thing that is kind of annoying on the Nano is while the Action 2 was in this setup here, you can actually have the camera record to the SD card directly, whereas on the Nano, it records on the internal memory only, and then you have the option of transferring it to the SD card, which is over here under this door. You can't record directly to the SD card when it's in this configuration, which is pretty annoying. Not sure why they took that away. I actually like that because I would have this camera set up like this. I would record directly to the SD card, and I can just take the SD card out and put in a new one and keep recording if I wanted to. Can't do that with this one. You can only record to the internal memory and then transfer the files over. Now, if you're wondering which one to get, 64 gigabyte or the 120 gigabyte, it kind of depends on how much you're recording and how often you're willing to just wait and for the file transfer to happen. If you don't record huge files or large amounts of files at a time, the 64 is probably going to be okay for you. Although for only like $20 more, it's just probably just better to get the 128 gigabyte. Although you don't get a full 128 gigabyte, it's like 106.7 gigabytes. I think part of the firmware is used in the storage for that 128, so you only get like 106.7 gigabytes available storage. And if you fill up that full 106 gigabytes to transfer it from the internal storage to the SD card, it takes about 25 minutes. So if you fill this up, you can't use this camera at all, and you have to wait for it to fully transfer. Now, I find that the transfer speed between the camera and the SD card is about the same as from the camera to your smartphone if you're using the Mimo app. So if you don't want to have the double step of transferring it to the SD card, then moving over to your PC or smartphone, and transferring it again, you can directly transfer the files wirelessly from the internal memory to your smartphone directly and use the wireless protocol in the Mimo app. That does work as well. And the speed is roughly the same. Of course, it depends on the phone model you're using. I'm using a top-end S25 Ultra, and it's pretty fast. Also be aware that the orientation of this camera module on the dock matters in terms of connecting it to your computer to offload files. I believe if it's in the selfie mode here where the screen and the camera are facing you, it does not work. You get that message saying you have to readjust and you have to flip it around, and then it works. I don't know why that is. It's kind of weird. Also, when you are using a wireless microphone like the Mic Mini, if it's connected to the camera wirelessly, when you disconnect the camera from the dock and it's wireless, you lose the preview video, and you'll still see the audio meter going, but the preview video is gone. I heard there's rumors that that's going to come back in a firmware update, but I don't know. Also, kind of weirdly, is if you have the dock connected wirelessly to the camera module, and the camera module also wirelessly connected to your phone via the Mimo app, and you get the preview video on both. When you connect the mic, the preview video goes away on the dock, but you still get it on the phone, which is kind of weird because they're both using the wireless protocol. So I don't know why it wouldn't work on the preview screen. It's just totally bizarre. So for me, I'm primarily going to be using this as the camera by itself and not with the dock necessarily, although you can use this as a sort of wireless monitor. I'll have another video later where I'm going to put the camera on like an RC car and then try and drive it around FPV using the wireless monitor. If you're interested in that, subscribe to I'll put that on the FPV channel, and then you can see it over there. But in terms of the camera itself, the things that they improved over the Action 2 is that they now have a replaceable glass here for the lens, and that's also where you're going to put your ND filters. So if you break this, then you can buy replacements for that, and that's actually a plus compared to the Action 2 where you have to replace the whole camera. Now, if you do have third-party ND filters, if you don't have can't find the ones specifically for the Nano, the ones for the Action 4 and Action 5 do fit the thread on this camera here. So I'll pop this off. I'll show you that this will actually fit in, although those are bigger. Now be aware that the rubber gasket here for the waterproofing is on the lens side or the glass side here on the Nano, but on the Action 4 and 5, it's on the camera side. So be aware of that. If you buy the filters for the Action 4 and 5, you will lose the waterproof rating on the camera, so you won't be able to go underwater, though I'm not sure who's going to be using ND filters underwater because it just makes things darker. So I don't know if that scenario is actually applicable. And of course, in terms of durability, they no longer have any kind of a screen back here that can break like it does on the Action 2. So that's also a plus, especially for you drone pilots out there that are worried about durability. They do offer this protective case that just slides over the top here like so, and I'm not sure if this helps with overheating or not, but this is definitely for if you're going to be using it in scenarios it'll be dropped more often. This is included in the kit. This is a standard combo and does have the little pins there so you can connect it to the dock. Now I found that when I have this camera in this scenario here where it's connected to the dock, sometimes the file transfers do not work or the files get corrupted. So if you want to avoid that problem, just pop the camera out of this case and you won't have that issue. So I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it has something to do with the tolerances of these little pins here, and maybe they're not connecting properly. But just want to let you know that I was having that issue. Now, since they don't have any screen on here, it would have been nice if they had like a little tiny LCD to show you some of the settings. So like on this old GoPro Session 5 here, they have this little tiny screen. When you turn this on, it shows you your settings. This says 4K 30 wide. It would have been nice to have something like that here, either on the top or on the back. And obviously this is big enough where it has space to put something like that. So I'm not sure why they didn't do that, because they definitely could have. And a little screen like that is probably not going to break, especially if you design it in such a way that it may be a little bit protected. So yeah, granted, this is going to be very durable and should last a while. It kind of sucks that you can't see their settings unless you have the dock on as well. And most of the time I would be flying this probably without a dock at all, or using it in a scenario where I'm not going to be even having this around. So, also in that scenario, you can't get the files off here unless you're using it wirelessly, and you can't charge this. Although there is a new mount with a USB connector here that is coming out soon. I should have that in a future video, and they'll let you charge this without the dock. So that again, in that case, a little screen here with the settings would have been nice to have. Now, this is 52 grams. This is probably the largest thumb-sized camera ever. Now, is your thumb as big as the camera? It's like, this is obviously inspired by the OG thumb camera. This one here, the Insta360 Go. If you guys remember, I had a whole bunch of videos on this guy years ago. This is like 18 grams, and yeah, this is actually the size of my thumb. And just to compare how large things have gotten, obviously this is a lot more capable than this one here, 1080p only, whereas this 4K 60, this is like 1080 30 frames per second. But you get a lot more capability with a larger size. Granted, this one did overheat as well, so when you have cameras this small, overheating is just going to be par for the course. Now, some of you asked me in my previous video on this when I was asking whether I should buy this or not. Do you still have to activate it? And yes, just like all DJI products, you do have to connect it to the Mimo app on your phone and activate it. And you're probably going to want to do that with firmware updates right away. So unfortunately, you still have to activate it. So for those of you that think that's a deal breaker, you're probably not going to be able to get this as well. For those of you that won't get any cameras that require activation, what do you use? I'm really curious, because there's not a lot of options out there that are actually, in my opinion, even worth buying. What are good options out there for those of you that will not buy a camera that requires activation? All the Insta360 ones require activation as well. So, let me know in the comments what I am missing there. All right, so before I get to the side-by-side footage, I'm going to have some side-by-side footage with the Nano and the Action 2. That's what was most requested. I do want to shout out my Patreon that let me borrow his camera. This is actually not mine. He actually bought 4 of these on the day that they popped up on Amazon, and got them next day. And I kind of dilly dally. I wasn't sure if I was going to buy this or not. And by the time I realized it was that I was going to go ahead and review this, it was out of stock, and I was like, I have to wait till December to pick this up. And I was like, forget it. And when I did decide to finally pick one up, I did find it at Adorama, but then it looked like it was in stock, but then I never got a shipping notice, and then I found out it was going to be delayed till like November. So I almost canceled that order, but then one of my patrons, who I was talking with about this camera, said he had 4 of these, and he just gave me one that was unopened, and he just said that when I get mine from Adorama, I'll just swap mine with his. So I just wanted to mention that a really nice Patreon that wanted to get me this camera in hand so he could get a video out for you guys. So shout out to that guy for letting me get this review out for you guys, so that you can get some some thoughts on this camera before basically the review cycle is pretty much over. Now, regarding the side-by-side footage here, I'm just going to be looking at these 2 cameras. If there are other cameras you'd like me to compare the Nano to, let me know in the comments. I'm not really sure if this really compares well with other standard cameras. Now, basically, what you have here with the Nano, with the 1/1.3 inch sensor, the f2.8 aperture, is very similar in specs to the Action 5. And the only difference is the field of view. It's 143 degree field of view on this lens versus the Action 5 is 155 degree field of view. So I don't know why that is, why they're using a lens with a lower field of view, which is odd. I kind of don't like that. The other thing I don't like is that this does not, if you upgrade to the latest firmware at 8.60, 4K 4x3 mode, 60 FPS no longer shows up. It showed up in an earlier firmware version, but now it's gone, which kind of sucks because I film most of my stuff in 4K 60 FPS 4x3, so I can do gyro flow. The Action 2, which is 4 years old, can do that mode, 4K 4x3 60 FPS. It's there. So I don't know why they took it away. Maybe it's because of the overheating issues, which is really bizarre. Yeah. And overall, in terms of overheating issues, this is a little bit better than the Action 2, but of course, those overheating issues are still there. So again, don't buy this if that's going to be a major concern for you. But regarding the footage between these two here, I'm just going to do side by side on these two cameras. But if I missed any, if there's other cameras that you want to see, let me know in the comments below. I'll consider that for future videos. If there's a specific feature that you want me to cover on this camera, let me know in the comments. A lot of those have already been covered in depth by hundreds of other videos out there. I literally watched 200 or 300 videos on this camera already, so I can give you, if you have questions, I can sort of give you a general idea of what I found out, because I can't put everything in this video. It would just be way too long. So again, ask me your questions in the comment section below, and if I can remember a video that I saw, I'll direct you to that one, so you can just watch that one. I don't have to create a new one. But if there's something really specific, now you got to be very specific, of course, in your question, something you want to see that you haven't seen anywhere else, then yeah, let me know. Of course, if it's some brand new stuff that no one considered covering, then yeah, I would be more than happy to help you out with that. But it's got to be something that is really kind of niche, not really something like everyone would be worried about, because most of those concerns have already been covered in a lot of the review videos already. But I just wanted to give you the side by side of these two. Obviously, the dynamic range on the Nano is going to be better. It's 4 years newer, just better SoC, better specs all around. The field of view is narrower. The footage outside of the dynamic range is a little bit worse on the Nano compared to the Action 5. I feel, this is my opinion, it's subjective. You may feel differently. By all means, let me know what you think in the comments below, what your opinion is on the footage. The Action 2 footage is a little bit sharper, cleaner. Just overall, digitally, it just looks a lot cleaner. I'm not sure what they're doing in processing wise, at least on this current firmware on the Nano. If you kind of zoom in on the footage, the pixels are kind of muddied out. I think it's just over processing, in my opinion. I think they're just doing something that is, I don't know, just not pleasant to the eye. And a lot of people that upgraded from the Action 4 to the Action 5 saw that same problem. So something over in DJI changed in the way that they decided to process the video footage, and yeah, it's a little bit smoother, but it's kind of an artificial AI kind of look to it. And so the footage in a lot of situations will just kind of look weird, just off. And it has to do with the processing of the footage itself. Now, I'm talking about this in the normal color profile, which I'm actually recording in normal 10-bit color, not 8-bit, because the 8-bit is pretty poor in my opinion, which is kind of surprising because the 8-bit is only available on the Action 2. They don't have 10-bit in the Action 2, but the 8-bit color looks pretty good in the Action 2 in my opinion. So you can look at that, and then I have a sample of the D-Log M in 10-bit where it's color graded, and that actually looks really good. Actually, I would say that was slightly better than the Action 2 once you color graded compared to the Action 2 in with descending like. Again, you guys can compare those side by side and let me know what you think. And also, you know, just in general, what else you'd like to see about this. I'm happy to make more content on this one if there's something specific that people are really interested in. So let me know in the comments below. Here's all those side by side footage clips, and if you want to see the footage, like the raw files, I can upload it to WeTransfer. So those files can stay up for 3 days. You can leave me a comment and I'll upload it, and then I'll leave you the link as a reply to your comment. But you'll have to download it within 3 days, otherwise it'll just be erased. So let me know in the comments if you want to see the actual raw files, because I can upload those, because YouTube does do a little bit of compression. And also make sure you're watching this video in 4K so you get the best quality footage for your viewing. But that's going to do it for this one here. Obviously way too long, I think, in my opinion. I usually don't make videos this long, but I just wanted to cover at least the stuff that's important to me and the things that I found out so far. Of course, I will have follow-up videos as more firmware updates come out, and if things change regarding this, and I will have a completely separate FPV related video on this camera on the FPV channel coming up soon. That'll do it for now. Talk to you later. All right, I'm here at the park, and I got the Osmo Nano with the Action 2 side by side to get some side by side comparisons of these two cameras. And the mode I'm in right now is 4K 60 FPS at 16:9 with Rocksteady turned on, and I have the ultra wide field of view on both of these. So to give you an idea of what these look like in terms of field of view comparisons at the widest setting. And I don't have any microphones on these, just so you're hearing the audio from the internal microphones. A little bit of wind here, and just going to kind of rotate around here, kind of see what it looks like. I think the Action 2 will probably look the worst with the sun behind me like this. You can see here my head on the Osmo Nano is in halo. I can still see some details in my face on the preview screen. Not sure how the Action 2 will hold up. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty dark. I'm probably in a silhouette with the light behind me. That's the dynamic range, 13 stops for 13 and a half stops. The dynamic range you're going to get on the Osmo Nano. You don't get that many on the Action 2. And now we got a jet going by over there, so you get an idea what the noise level is like, how well it picks up my voice with background noise on both of these cameras. And I'm going to go back and forth on the samples here as I'm talking, so you'll see both of them either side by side or in full screen, so you can compare them. Obviously, YouTube compression is going to diminish the quality of the footage, so something to keep in mind. I am using the normal color profile on both of these. I'm not using descent-alike or the 10-bit D-Log M, but the normal color profile on the Osmo Nano is set to 10-bit, not 8-bit. Just so most people will probably use that, and I'm using the high bitrate option on the Osmo Nano. You can go with the lower bitrate and also the 8-bit video color. Probably save a little bit of space, but unless you're really cramped on space and want really small file sizes, probably not worth even getting this camera. Might as well just stick with the Action 2. So that's why I have these settings for this particular test. So. Alright, so now I'm in the wide field of view of both cameras instead of ultra wide. So a little bit closer in on the face here. Still same normal color profile, 10-bit on the Osmo Nano. Everything's the same as it was in the previous test. Just gonna show you the different lights. So this is the sun facing me, so the video should look pretty good. In these really bright lighting conditions, both cameras are gonna look pretty good. And then of course the dynamic range is gonna come in here when I have the sun behind me like this. So the Action 2 is probably going to look really dark in terms of what my face looks like in terms of shadow detail. That's because it has not as good dynamic range. It's 4 years older, of course. But I think in the normal color profile, the at least from what I've seen previously, other samples, I don't know, the footage looks a little bit artificial. I don't know, just if you kind of do some pixel peeping and zoom in, some of the details are kind of mushed out on the Osmo Nano compared to the Action 2. I think the details look better on the Action 2, just my opinion. I think maybe they have changed something with the video processing algorithm. So this is the wide field of view. And let me go into the shadows here. I'm going to go into under a tree shadow. So this is what it looks like with not as much light. And circling around. Again, this is with the sun behind me. And I have rock steady on both of these. So I'm going to turn on D-Log M on the Osmo Nano now and D-Cine Like for the Action 2, and then we'll compare. Alright, so I turned on D-Log M 10-bit on the Osmo Nano and D-Cine Like on the Action 2. These are probably the best settings. Still in the wide field of view. This is probably the one I'm going to use the most, is the wide field of view, not the ultra wide. But yeah, here's the sun behind me. I'm in the shadow of the tree here. Turn around and facing the sun. So that's how this. So I'll go over to the bright sunlight over here. Sun is to my right. I think this is probably going to give the best image quality, but you do have to do some color grading with this, and that is probably a downside because most people want to get this tiny Osmo Nano point of view camera for ease of use and just, you know, quickly shoot something and then put it up on social media. I would say in that case go with the normal color profile in 10-bit and you'll get a pretty decent image for things like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that kind of thing. Again, if you're pixel peeping, if you're looking for, you're going to probably want to go with the D-Log M. That's going to give you the best image quality overall. So going the other way here, sun behind me, and over this way again. Yeah, so you guys let me know what you guys think of the image quality Action 2 compared to the Osmo Nano. I think these two are probably similar in a lot of respects, but again, I think the low light test will probably show a little bit something. Well, not the low light test, but I guess the golden hour test when the sun's a little bit lower in the sky might show a little bit more in terms of the differences. So that'll be in another clip. But yeah, definitely know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious what you guys think of the differences and similarities between these two, because they are both modular, and the Nano is supposed to be a significant upgrade over the Action 2, but I don't know, I'm not 100% sure that that's the case. I'll do the wireless microphone test now at this point in the next segment. Alright, so testing out the wireless microphone here. Is the Mic Mini, and got it connected via the Osmo audio protocol. I am shooting in 4K 60, the wide profile, or the wide field of view with the D-Log M 10-bit color, so high bit rate, all the best settings here. Mainly want to see what or hear what the audio sounds like here with no noise reduction right now. So this is probably going to be your best setup here in terms of getting the cleanest audio, is using something like this, an external mic. And this does provide an advantage over the Action 2, which you can't do unless you use the USB-C receiver. We go this way here, going into the sun. And I got wind here, so the wind muff is probably blocking that, but I'm going to go ahead and let's turn on noise reduction. Okay, So now we have noise reduction turned on. It's not a lot of noise other than the leaves of the trees here that are rustling. Let me know if you guys hear that still, or if my voice sounds kind of weird. Sometimes the noise reduction algorithm does kind of turn the audio a little strange. But yeah, just giving you a sample of the wireless audio here on the Mic Mini. And yes, I think the Mic 2 and the Mic 3 probably sound better than this. Oh, there's a plane over there. So I'll show you that, but I don't know if you can see that in the video or not. But noise reduction is on, so that probably is muffled. And hopefully my voice doesn't sound too weird, but you guys let me know in the comments what the results were like and how you think it sounds. And turn the noise reduction back off again. And here we go again with noise reduction off. So again, with the background noise, you'll probably hear background noise, but the voice audio probably sounds more natural or just cleaner, not kind of muffled. That sometimes the noise reduction does kind of introduce that sort of muffled sound in the audio. All right, so here's a demo of the Super Night mode. I'm in a parking lot. It's pretty well lit, but it's pretty dark as well. And I think in terms of jitters, you're going to see in terms of low light stabilization, they're going to show up if you shake the camera with this mount that's on here. So I'll shake it, and I think the mount is the reason why those jitters show up. And also when you walk around, I think the mount's now very secure, so whatever you're using shouldn't vibrate if you don't want those jitters to show up in your low light footage. But yeah, you guys let me know how it looks to you. There's a lot of noise here, cars, and there's a pickleball court over there. All those sounds are probably going to get picked up. I'm going to get closer to this light over here, so I'm a little bit more lit up now. I'm under a light here. This one right here. That should light me up pretty good. But and walking around in the dark, there might be some shakes, but if you don't shake the mount too much, I think the footage should be okay with the with the stabilization. There's the mode on here that prevents the shaking that shows up in the video feed. So anyway, let me know what you guys think of the footage.